Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is shared. Wishing you a pleasant listening experience. Today, I'm going to interpret an extraordinary book. Why do I call it extraordinary? First and foremost, due to its astonishing impact. The first edition of this book was written in English and published in Canada in 1997. In the following 20 years, it sold over 3 million copies in North America alone, with over 1 million copies sold in the United Kingdom. Its influence extended far beyond the English-speaking world. To date, it has been translated into more than 30 languages and remains a bestseller. Apart from its remarkable influence, there's another reason I consider this book extraordinary. It's because of the unique perspective it presents. What perspective, you may ask? To put it bluntly, this book has the power to make your mind come to a standstill. Now, that might sound strange because we typically read to sharpen our minds, to make them work faster and produce more accurate results. So, how can there be a book that stops your mind? This is because the author of this book believes that many of the problems we encounter in our daily lives are not due to our minds not working fast enough but because they don't stop spinning, creating excessive mental noise that drowns out our inner truth and prevents effective action. From a practical standpoint, this book helps us silence the noise in our minds, bringing our awareness back to the present moment and allowing us to wholeheartedly address the problems at hand. Of course, the content of this book goes far beyond these aspects. In the next 20 minutes, I will do my best to provide you with a detailed explanation. Enough with the suspense. Let me briefly introduce this book and its author. The book is titled The Power of Now, and its author is Eckhart Tolle. Tolle was born in Germany in 1948 and is now a man in his 70s. At the age of 29, right after graduating from the University of Cambridge, Tolle experienced a profound transformation. Despite his talent and proficiency in English, German, and Spanish, along with his expertise in literature and cosmology, he suffered from depression and mental anguish that his knowledge couldn't alleviate. One evening shortly after his 29th birthday, Tolle experienced an intense urge to commit suicide, repeating in his mind, "I can't live with myself any longer." Just as that breaking point approached, a crucial realization dawned upon him: if I can't live with myself, there must be two of me, the I and the to myself. But which one is real? With this thought, the terrifying voice in Tolle's mind vanished, his thinking ceased, yet his consciousness remained acutely clear. Please take note that Tolle distinguished between thought and consciousness, a concept we will delve into later. On the following morning, Tolle felt the world's profound beauty, and his life felt entirely new. This transformation marked the end of his depression. From that point on, Tolle's life revolved around sharing his experiences with others and helping them overcome inner suffering. This eventually became his profession, and during his interactions with people, he developed a comprehensive theory that he eventually documented in a book, the one you are about to hear, The Power of Now. Next, I will break down the theory and practical application of Tolle's teachings. In the first part, I will explain Tolle's comprehensive framework regarding life, the world, and the self. In the second part, we will discuss how to apply Tolle's theory to clear the mental noise, bring our attention to the present moment, and lead a more fulfilling life. Okay, let's continue. In the first part, we will start by explaining Tolle's theory. Up to this point, I haven't directly mentioned what problems this theory addresses because it's quite comprehensive. In general, it deals with the issues of human thinking, consciousness, the self, and the relationship with the world. It might sound abstract, but it's not difficult to understand at all. Let's start with the problem of mental noise we mentioned earlier. Have you ever had the experience where you're working on something, like writing a document in your office, and you find yourself lost in thought? You might start thinking about how challenging it is to meet this month's KPI, or you remember that someone you know is getting married next month, and you need to remember to attend the wedding. You recall the idealistic person you used to be back in school, and suddenly, you remember a book you read recently and try to recall its title. When you finally snap out of it, you realize that several minutes have passed. You might wonder, what's the big deal about such occurrences? Isn't it just daydreaming? I can refocus and get back to work, right? If you have this mindset, it indicates that you've grown accustomed to the mental noise in your head, and you don't see it as a problem. The Power of Now reminds us that the mental noise is indeed a problem, and a significant one. It impairs the quality of our lives, as it distracts us and wastes our time. In the book, Tolle gives a name to this mental noise. He calls it compulsive thinking. Why is it called compulsive thinking? Because it's beyond your control. Think about it. Have you ever daydreamed intentionally? Can you easily stop it when you notice that you're drifting off into thoughts? Even if you realize you're daydreaming and tell yourself to stop, the mental noise doesn't disappear, it turns into an internal conflict with yourself. Only when you finally manage to refocus on the task at hand have you successfully crawled out of the daydreaming pit. Doesn't that sound like a problem to you? Originally, our ability to think is one of the most remarkable attributes of our species. It's a powerful tool to solve problems. However, compulsive thinking becomes problematic when it takes over, overwhelming your consciousness. It's like having a computer program pop up out of nowhere, running autonomously, pushing aside what you're currently doing, and consuming a significant portion of your mental resources. In our minds, this happens every day, even several times an hour. It depletes your time and energy. But the biggest problem with compulsive thinking is that it keeps pulling your attention back to the past or dragging you into the future, preventing you from being fully present. When you daydream, you'll notice that your thoughts often revolve around significant past memories or future imaginations. Even if you're fantasizing about a scenario that has never happened in reality, it's usually related to your past experiences or future anxieties, reflecting certain deep-seated thoughts within you. You might argue, what's wrong with thinking about the past and future? They're essential. My knowledge, experiences, and achievements are based on the past, and the future gives me hope and goals to strive for. You're right, we don't deny the value of the past and future. However, Tolle's perspective is that, for each person's life, the only truly real moment is the present. Please note, he doesn't mean that the past never happened or the future won't come. The past is a set of fixed facts, and the future is certain to arrive. Tolle's point is that the past's moments are permanently gone, leaving memories in your current moment. As for the future, for your present self, it exists only in your imagination. Imagine your life as the needle on a record player, and the time you have is the music on the record. The record is spinning, playing from one chapter to another, while the needle remains fixed at one point. The only real moments are those where the needle touches the record in the present. Of course, this doesn't mean you shouldn't recall the past or anticipate the future. You can fondly remember the past and plan for the future, but it should be a conscious choice in the present, not unconscious daydreaming. In a well-structured piece of music, there are usually repeated parts that make the composition sound more organized and beautiful. Similarly, the current part of your life can resonate with your past and prelude to your future. But whether it's resonance, prelude, memory, or anticipation, you need to experience it consciously in the present. The needle on the record player should remain stable, not jumping back and forth between the past and future. If it does, the music that plays in your mind becomes fragmented, and that's what we refer to as mental noise. Tolle believes that the key to stabilizing the needle on the record player is your consciousness, while the fluctuating needle is caused by your thoughts. As I mentioned earlier, Tolle distinguishes between thoughts and consciousness, and in his view, they are fundamentally different. Thoughts are specific, logical processes, whereas consciousness is the awareness behind these thoughts. Since thoughts are specific, they can be described, spoken, written, and even turned into a film. Consciousness, on the other hand, is challenging to describe. It perceives the world in the present and makes decisions. Consciousness is not thought, it's the master of thought. In essence, compared to thought, your consciousness is closer to the real you. Tolle strongly opposes René Descartes' famous statement, "I think, therefore I am." Tolle believes that a person's thoughts are far from representing their true self. Thoughts can construct an image of the self, one with memories of the past, a specific identity, and anticipated futures, but this self, which can be written in a resume or autobiography, is illusory. It's merely a product of your thoughts, an imagination of the self. The real and conscious self, always present in the now, is the authentic one, with life and essence. Do you remember the story I mentioned at the beginning? At the age of 29, Tolle, in an excruciating night, suddenly realized that he had two selves, and one of them couldn't bear the other, pushing him towards suicide. Tolle believes that this dangerous self, which is continually fed by the thoughts and constructs of the past and future, is the source of all problems. He calls this self the ego. In his view, the ego is the root of all issues, always taking advantage of moments when we aren't paying attention to stage scenarios about the past or future, dragging us into past emotions or future anxieties. So, why does the ego do this? It's because the ego can only exist by relying on the past and future. It releases negative energy from the past, and it fosters the entity known as the pain body. This is a crucial concept in the book. The pain body is an entity created from unresolved negative emotions accumulated in your heart. It's like an autonomous being with a will of its own, dormant when you don't sense it. However, when you encounter setbacks or triggers that remind you of painful memories, the pain body awakens. You may witness someone who is typically calm and suddenly becomes irritable and impulsive. It's like they've turned into a different person. This is when you're most likely seeing their pain body in action. The pain body feeds on the past. The problem is that the illusory ego is continually poking the past's doors open, releasing this negative energy. When you understand this relationship, you can see why the ego, the pain body, and thinking are all interconnected. So, in this book, Tolle believes that the source of our suffering, the torment caused by negative emotions, stems from our uncontrolled thinking. To overcome these issues, we need to reclaim control over our thoughts, bringing our consciousness back into the picture. How can we do that? This question sounds quite abstract, but in reality, it has specific and practical methods, and they are very simple. Tolle introduces two primary methods in the book. The first method involves using your consciousness to observe your thoughts. If you are in a safe and quiet environment right now, you can try it. You can close your eyes and say to yourself, I want to see what the next thought that arises in my mind is. Then, focus your attention, just like a cat watching a mouse hole, quietly waiting for your next thought to emerge. I won't speak for the next 10 seconds, please try it for yourself. Okay, 10 seconds have passed. What did you discover? According to Tolle's experience, most people, when they concentrate and wait for their thoughts, actually don't have any thoughts arise during that 10 seconds. In that brief period, if your attention is sufficiently concentrated, you might sense a gap in your thinking. Of course, this may not happen, your mind might still generate some thoughts. In such cases, it's perfectly fine. Please continue trying. When you notice a new thought emerging, don't startle it, don't try to block it, and don't analyze it or label it. In other words, don't initiate thinking actively. When a thought appears, simply acknowledge its existence, like when you encounter an acquaintance on the street, nod and smile. Practicing this method a few times, I personally found it effective, and you'll soon experience moments of mental silence within your thoughts. During these moments, the internal noise, which you might not even be aware of, suddenly disappears, like turning off a continuously humming air conditioner. You will feel an extraordinary sense of ease. I'd like to remind you that the purpose of this exercise is to help you regain consciousness so that it is not overshadowed by the noise of your thoughts. Ideally, when your thoughts are silent, your consciousness should be highly alert. If, during a moment of thoughtlessness, you feel drowsy or lethargic, it means you need to enhance your focus. Tolle mentions in the book that Buddhist monks, during meditation, also perform similar exercises. Some Zen masters, to test their disciples' meditation skills, would sneak up behind them and suddenly strike them with a small stick. If the disciples' meditation was correct, their consciousness would be highly alert and capable of avoiding the master's strike. If the disciple had not yet mastered meditation, they might either doze off or have a mind filled with wandering thoughts. This means their consciousness had either slipped into drowsiness or been overwhelmed by the noise of thought, rendering them unconscious. In such a state, they were prone to being struck. Okay, we've discussed the first method for regaining consciousness, which is actively using your consciousness to observe your thoughts. Apart from this method, the book also introduces a second method, which is equally simple. The second method involves being fully present and feeling what you are currently doing. It's essential to note that the key to this method is the word feeling rather than thinking. Tolle provides some examples in the book. For instance, when you are going up or down the stairs, instead of thinking about other things, focus your attention on each step you take. Pay attention to the sensation of lifting your foot and placing it down, the muscle sensations, the support you feel from the ground, and the rhythm of your breath. Similarly, when you wash your hands, focus on the sensations between your skin as you rub your hands together, the temperature and texture of the water, the sound of water running down the sink, and the fragrance of the soap. You see, whether it's going up and down the stairs or washing your hands, these are routine activities that you can perform unconsciously. Your mind may have already drifted away from the present, thinking about dinner ingredients during stair climbing or work tasks for the next day while washing your hands. However, by concentrating your attention on the sensations of the present, you can escape the labyrinth of thoughts, allowing your consciousness to regain its proactive nature. This method is straightforward to practice. Whenever you are not engaged in tasks requiring deep logical thinking, you can use this method at any time to bring your consciousness back to the present moment. Okay, up to this point, we have introduced two methods for regaining consciousness: the active engagement of consciousness to observe thoughts and focusing on the sensations of the present moment. In this book, Tolle assigns a more profound meaning to the act of regaining consciousness. In his view, regaining consciousness not only helps us escape the control of compulsive thinking, avoiding emotional and mental conflicts, but also aids us in understanding our true selves. As mentioned earlier, Tolle believes that the self created by thought is an illusion, and the real self lies in staying present in the moment. This self, deeply connected to consciousness, is the bridge to the true self. In the book, Tolle provides a profound philosophical analysis of the concept of the true self. According to him, the true self is similar to the concept of the Tao in Taoism. It is indescribable and beyond the comprehension of thought. However, when you connect with it through consciousness, you experience a profound sense of joyful and peaceful empowerment. This perspective on the true self goes beyond seeking spiritual enlightenment. It has practical applications in everyday life, such as maintaining intimacy in relationships. In the initial stages of an intimate relationship, we often experience great satisfaction from the partner's recognition, affection, and even admiration. However, as per Tolle's theory, this initial satisfaction only appeases the lonely and fragile ego, not the true self. Once the initial passion fades, the ego, entrenched in the past, experiences feelings of loss and distress. It resorts to various means to force the partner to act according to its own desires. This is when issues such as possessiveness and jealousy intensify, and the other partner might respond with indifference or even aggression. These problems are recurrent in many intimate relationships, all due to one's attachment to the past and lack of presence. When we can escape the past, overcome the noisy mind, and focus on the present, our consciousness is empowered. We can achieve a state of consciousness where the ego has less control. This creates space for a more profound and authentic connection between individuals. To be continued. So, are there any solutions? Tolle believes there's a common remedy for almost all suffering, and that is to keep your consciousness in the present moment. The specific methods are similar to the two we discussed earlier. When problems arise in an intimate relationship, both parties involved in the conflict can try to use their consciousness to observe their own and each other's thoughts. This observation should not be judgmental or defensive. There should be no attack, no defense, no analysis, just a pure, conscious experience of the other's presence. It's important to note that this approach isn't a form of coldness or indifference. It doesn't mean ignoring important issues that need resolution. Both individuals in the relationship can still have effective communication. They can express their feelings and take constructive steps. But what's crucial is that this communication doesn't carry any resentment or grudges from the ego. They aren't caught up in the past or anxious about the future. They are simply returning to the most awake state of the present. This moment may be the beginning of truly understanding each other and themselves. Alright, up to this point, I've summarized the core content of this book for you. Let's do a quick recap. The book discusses a unique theory created by the author, Tolle, which helped him overcome depression in his youth and has inspired millions of readers worldwide. The concepts Tolle uses in the book might sound a bit profound, but they are relatively easy to understand. In simple terms, Tolle believes that there's a widespread issue with our thinking. It's often compulsive. Our thoughts are meant to be our tools, but they frequently take control when our consciousness is weak. This not only leads to energy depletion but more importantly, our thoughts, fueled by past memories and future expectations, weave an illusory self, the ego. This ego is fragile and constantly pulls us into the past or pushes us into the future, generating various negative emotions that create what we call suffering. To overcome this series of problems, you need to address the root cause, your thinking. After all, thoughts are just tools, consciousness is the true master. In the book, Tolle introduces two straightforward and convenient training methods to help keep our consciousness in the present moment. Using the power of the present moment allows us to approach our true selves and tackle real-life issues, such as maintaining healthy intimate relationships. Tolle's theory deals with relatively abstract and fundamental issues. Beyond intimate relationships, I believe it can also have applications in many aspects of our lives. For instance, when dealing with multitasking at work, remind yourself periodically to bring your consciousness back to the present moment. This can reduce the psychological burden of switching between tasks and decrease the risk of making mistakes. When emotions are running high or when you're physically fatigued, you can try Tolle's suggested method to calm your emotions and alleviate fatigue using the power of the present moment. These are the highlights of the book. I congratulate you on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, audiobook channel, like, and share with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth spreading, and it opens the door to a better future. Thank you, and goodbye.